Hey, this is Jack from BCO Farm. I just wanted to do a little walkthrough of the Swale project. It's been a few months since the last walkthrough. It's been a really hot summer, not a lot of rain. Surprisingly, a lot of the trees have done quite well. I'll show you in the other end of the swale here in a minute, but I've had to fill the swale manually a few times from our pool where we store water. That helps. The wood chips also help a lot. Here I've been adding a lot more wood chips on both sides of the swale. Once everything dies back for the winter, I'll put a heavy layer of chips on the berm, but I don't want to do that right now because things are still growing and I might smother them. I just planted a honey locust tree that I grew from seed. It's been in a pot all spring. The deer and the rabbits like that, so I'll get a cage around it to protect it through this next winter. Got really thick layers of wood chips all along here. The fruit trees, they've been beaten up a little bit by the deer, but we'll see next year how they do. Here's a couple of real small fig trees that they're hanging in there. Lots and lots of wood chips. We keep getting big truckloads of free wood chips, and I'll take all of them I can get. There's the pile. It's getting smaller, but I still have a fair amount left. That's all going to go on the berms this fall. And right here's the dividing point where everything in the rest of this section are the trees that were put in the ground about 18 months ago. So those trees, 6 months ago, they were transplanted. A year before these trees were transplanted. And you can see, like, these first two are cherries. They've been a favorite of the deer, but there's some peaches, more peaches, some pears. We've gotten a lot of really good growth. And there's another honey locust I just planted. I'm going to step across the swale. This whole area between the two swales used to be just grass, and I've sheet mulched it, put a thick layer of chips. They've all settled quite a bit. And we'll keep adding more if I can get more. Some of these, yes, that's a toilet over there. That's kind of a family joke. We live without an HOA, so I have a toilet in my front yard because I can. There's an example of an apple tree that's been a favorite of the deer. It's just had limbs broken off, leaves eaten, and it's still hanging in there. Yesterday I cleaned out the chicken coop, and all of the old pine shavings and manure go into the swale. That gets repeatedly soaked all winter. I did the same thing last year in the upper swale, and it starts to break down and add material to the swale. There is I believe that's a blackberry. And there's another one down there. I got lots of blackberries and raspberries around all these. Some comfrey that I transplanted last year. Some of it did well, some hasn't. This fall, I'll dig up some more and spread even more of it. There's a little honey locust that's been in the ground for months and somehow survived. Need to get a cage around that one. Speaking of the honey locusts, I've talked about those before, but to buy them around here is about $10 per tree, and they're not very big trees. And I got about 80 seeds for, I think, $8 with shipping. So probably only had about 10 of them that have survived to get bigger, but still that's $100 worth of trees for $8. There's some more trees. I think that's a pawpaw. I have a cage around that. I don't know what those look like big, but I'm looking forward to finding out in a few years. Here's another view of the trees. There's some peach trees doing really well. That's the peach tree that produced all of the peaches this spring. And to see how many peaches we could get off of one tree makes it really exciting to think about what we're going to get one day off about 80 fruit trees. There is one of our fig trees. This thing has really taken off in the swale environment. It was here before the swale, but it was smaller than that one a year and a half ago. Of course, this one's only had about 6 months in the lower swale to help it. This one's had 2 seasons in the swale, and you can see all the growth. It's got figs on it. That's another little fig tree. And then that's actually 2 fig trees there. That is a pomegranate that went in the ground about 18 months ago and didn't do much last year, but it has really started to grow well this year. That's a cucumber, and I don't even remember putting that seed there, but it probably was there since last April, and it's just now decided to germinate. But the deer will eat that. There's another pomegranate. Oh, there's another honey locust. These are all the thornless variety. I've heard how bad the thorns are, and I don't want to deal with that. I think that is a persimmon. I had a few trees left over. I tried them in all different areas. You can see the little patches of chips down there. Those are all small trees I planted. Some have survived, some haven't. But the extras got put right down in the bottom of the swale, and since our swales don't fill with water that often, man, they've done better than everywhere else. So my approach to all of this is I just throw things everywhere and see what survives and do more of what does well and less of what doesn't. I worried a little less this year about weeds. I try to do my best to discourage the things I don't want and encourage the things I do. But now I understand weeds are biomass. The things that I aggressively go after are the wild blackberries because those thorns are nasty. And poison ivy. I'm not allergic to poison ivy, but everybody else in my family is, so I pull that up anytime I see it. So one day, I expect that all of this area in between the swales is going to develop into a food forest. Fruit trees, berries. We'll just keep trying different things. I didn't mention, but I have a couple of elderberries up there near that pine tree. We'll see how those do over time. This green you see here, all of that is from one raspberry vine that I planted over in the swale a year and a half ago. It sent a shoot out, kind of like this one last year, that I cut the ends and stuck them into the ground so they would start more plants. And they've just started sprouting everywhere. And this is a thornless raspberry, so I really don't mind if it takes over the area. I've dealt with wild blackberries that take over, and the blackberries are okay. They're kind of small and seedy. The chickens like them, but the thorns are just awful. So I'm okay with something like that taking over as long as it doesn't have the nasty thorns. And if it produces fruit, then I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to enjoy it. There's our one goji berry. We got a handful of goji berries a month ago. Got a cage around it because I know the deer would like to eat it. And that's about it. You can see these trees are starting to catch up to the ones that are in the upper part of the property there on the other side of the driveway. Those do have wood chips around them this year, which probably helps them some, but they just don't have the kind of water that they get down here in the swale. So it's September 5th. We finally started to get a little bit of a break in the temperature, and it's been, I think I heard we've had about 70 days this summer over 90 degrees, not very much rain, and you really couldn't tell from looking at these fruit trees that we were in near drought conditions. So I really like the way the system is developing. Looking forward to seeing how it develops over the next few years. But for now, that's it. This is Jack from BCO Farm. We'll talk to you next time.